Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I'm not dumb except when it comes to women. I know. In fact, aren't most men dumb when it comes to women? I know some of us think they know about them, that they understand them, but is that really the case? I think not. Like most men, I'm just trying to figure things out and do everything as right as I can. Having said that, I suppose that's the reason it took me so long to realize that I'm really dumb when it comes to women, and in particular, my wife. I saw signs of her disrespect and betrayal for almost 5 months before I decided that if there was smoke, then maybe there was just a fire that I needed to put out. As the old song says, we got married in a fever hotter than a pepper sprout. I found Catherine, courted her, and married her during my 1 year of college. I was studying at the University of Oklahoma at Stillwater with a degree in party management when she accidentally appeared in my life. Okay. My real specialty was hotel and restaurant management. Partying is what I did when I was supposed to be studying. I also worked as a bouncer at a well-known and popular college. Bouncers took turns at different posts in the building to do their jobs. We served visitors at the door, checking documents, and made our way through the crowd to make sure that nothing untoward had happened. The bar had an upper floor, and one of us was always on duty at the top of the stairs so that drunks would not fall off it. While I was working there, I quickly got an idea of the female representatives. I found out which ones are suitable and which are not, and which are sometimes suitable, and how to identify each of them. When I was stationed at the top of the stairs, I could see most of the lower floor. I watched from my post on the balcony as the women handled the dumb bastards on the ground floor. Some women had 2 or 3 poor dumb bastards buying them drinks at the same time in hopes of taking them home or to their cars to sit in a secluded corner for a while later in the evening. Many young ladies begged drinks from dumb men shortly before closing time. Usually after the last call or a little earlier, there was a massive outflow of these women. They pretended to go to the toilet before leaving with a young man who treated them during the evening to let them escape through the back door that led from the hallway to the toilets. This, of course, infuriated the men, and many times one of the bouncers had to give them advice to calm them down. I knew which of the young women regularly played this game, and as a public servant, I warned my friends, and sometimes just a guy I thought was cute and who didn't deserve to be talked about. I just let others get carried away. Anyway, one Saturday night after a home game, I was working and watching drunks make fools of themselves when this absolute goddess fell into my arms. Drunk is an understatement for her. She was completely out of it and claimed she didn't even know where she was. She couldn't find the friends she supposedly came with, but I figured it out. I had never seen her with these women before, and they were one of the worst groups that could sneak out the back door after drinking for free all night. I was pretty sure they were gone. It was after the last call, and they usually ran out when the last call was announced. Around this time, when Catherine was literally hanging in my arms, a man came up from whom she was begging for drinks. He glared at me and grabbed her arm. "Come on, Kelly," he said. "We need to get out of here. I was already starting to think that you disappeared because of me. Well, now I think I know her name." I was about to let her go with the young man when she came to her senses a little and looked at him questioningly. "My name is not Kelly, but Catherine. Who are you? Why should I go with you? Where are Cindy and the other girls? I was supposed to go with them when the bar closed." The man just pulled her by the hand and said, "Kelly, Catherine, it doesn't matter. I've been buying you drinks all night long and now you're coming home with me." Catherine came to her senses again and tried to stand up and pull away from the man. She looked scared and said, "No, I don't know you and I don't want to go with you. Now leave me alone." The man tried to pull her away again, but she resisted. I decided that she really didn't know him and didn't want to leave, so I dragged her to a chair and tried to get between them. "Hey kid," I said. "It looks like the lady doesn't want to go with you. Now why don't you just leave like she asked before we have a problem?" A mask of hatred appeared on his face and he pushed me. "Fuck off, asshole. Now leave it if you know what's best for you." I moved away a little, then grabbed his arm and quickly twisted it behind his back. He screamed in pain when one of my fellow bouncers approached. "Are you in trouble, Dave?" "Nope. This guy wanted to take the lady with him, but she didn't want to go. He didn't want to take no for an answer, but I think he understands now, doesn't he?" Having said that, I pulled the jerk's arm up a little more, and he howled in pain again and stood on tiptoe. "Oh yes, I get it. Just let me go, asshole." I walked the man to the door and went out to the edge of the sidewalk. I gave him a little push and said, "Okay, get lost, buddy. Now we have your picture, so I don't want to get in any more trouble from you. Otherwise, we'll have to call security next time." I returned to the building and saw a couple of waitresses crowding around Catherine. She passed out in her chair. Damn, that's what I was thinking. Patty looked at me and said, "Dave, Catherine lives in my dorm. If you help me get her back to the dorm and put her in her room, I can take care of her from there." Well, that's what I did, and that's how I became one of Catherine's favorite people. The following weekend, I was working on a Friday evening when a beautiful woman jumped up to me, wrapped her arms around me, and hugged me before imprinting a very careless and long kiss on my lips. I pushed her away and said, "Wow, what does all this mean?" "You saved me last Saturday. Patty told me that you stopped that asshole from taking me home, then you drove us back to the dorm and helped her drag me to my room. I do not know what would have happened to me if you had not saved me. I didn't even know that he and my stupid friends had pulled off the old trick of drinking and running out the back door on the last bell without me. I was supposed to go with them, but they didn't wait for me. They just left. I didn't even hear them calling the last time, so I missed it. Well, for the next 2 years when I was working, Catherine was always there for me to protect. We got to know each other very well and started dating a few months after I saved her. When we graduated from high school, we got married. Catherine is just a little demanding. She loves parties and dancing, likes to eat delicious food and drink good wine. It's all right. We have a great job and no kids, so we can afford it. We just can't afford as much as she wants right now, and it pisses her off when I tell her we can't go anywhere before payday. Some of our arguments about money revolve around the fact that my parents are quite wealthy. They own a large farm production and almost 4 plots of farmland in our hometown. We also have a large year-round resort for fishing and hunting. When I tell Catherine that we can't afford something, she almost always screams that if I wasn't such an idiot, I'd get it from my parents. She thinks I should come home and take a leadership position with Dad so that we can earn a lot of money and be a big duck in a small puddle. I have repeatedly told her that I am here at this job to gain some real experience and learn how the big boys do it before I return to our company. The resort manager plans to retire in another 3 years, and at that time I will take his place. That's not fast enough for Catherine. I started getting snide comments about my ability to earn enough to pay our bills. Sometimes Catherine would leave after work with her friends and come home exhausted. Many times over the past few months, I've had to pick her up or pay for a taxi. About 5 months ago, it all stopped. Oh, she still came home agitated, and many times I had to go to the office with her the next day to pick up her car. Sometimes I had to take her to her favorite bar to pick it up, but I never had to pay the taxi driver or pick her up. Once or twice, I found her sleeping on the living room floor when I came down the next morning. I wondered how she got into the house if she passed out on the floor outside the door. Finally, after a few arguments, I decided to find out what was really going on. I did what many men do in a similar situation. I bought dictaphones and put them in Catherine's purse, in her car, and even one in her office, hidden under her desk. I tapped our landline phone and bought the necessary equipment to copy her calls from her mobile. What I found out killed my love for her. She had an affair with one of the men she worked with. Many late nights and Saturday shopping trips with the girls over the past 5 months have been her connections with good old Gregory Anders. He was one of those obnoxious salesmen that you hate. Greg was arrogant. He had an insinuating smile, and he was sucking up to his best. His only salvation, or maybe not, was that not only was he the highest paid salesman in her company, but his father owned the damn place. I had enough notes to understand 2 things. When I reduced our visits to expensive restaurants, reduced the amount of entertainment, buying fine wines, going to expensive performances, and so on, Catherine complained long and loudly at work about how I treated her badly. Gregory noticed that Catherine was unhappy, and began to follow the women during their night walks. He spent money, bought them drinks, and generally showed them the good life until he got Catherine interested. After that, he managed to persuade her to meet him for lunch at an expensive bistro. After she got hooked on his extravagance, he invited her to dinner after work at posh establishments. A few weeks later, Catherine succumbed to his seduction and began spending time in bed with Gregory. He started giving her orders, and to my shock, she followed them. All he had to do was threaten to stop his generosity, and she complied with his demands. I even had recordings of him telling her to cut down on the amount of love we were making because he didn't want my sloppy seconds. He told her that she had to make sure that more than 24 hours had passed from the moment she slept with me to the time she slept with him. Otherwise, he would leave her. He said, I refuse to make love to my woman after she's been with someone worse. I don't care how you do it, but you have to make sure you're clean before you come to me. Our lives quickly declined and revolved around good old Gregory's trips out of town on sales and on Sundays. He was never with her on Sundays, so it quickly became my only guaranteed day of love. I have to admit that I really didn't care after I found out what was going on. I kept her by my side for as long as I could, just because I was getting ready for a divorce. Fortunately, we had only been married for about 27 months, and we hadn't had children yet when I found out about good old Greg and Kate. She hates being called Kate, so that's how I think of her now. We rented a pretty nice apartment and bought 2 new cars. She, of course, had to have a BMW. I was very happy with my 2010 F-150 Super Crew 4X4, which I bought new when we graduated from college. When we went somewhere, she refused to go in that damn old truck and insisted that we go in her car. Of course, we rarely go out together anymore. I'm just doing enough with her to keep her in the dark. Today begins my revenge on Kate and Greg. She has a date with him tonight. She plans to meet him at the mall at 6:30 p.m. They're going to have a drink and then have dinner at a new French restaurant. After that, they go dancing. She told me she was going to a baby shower with the girls. Kate got out of the shower at 5:30 p.m. and started getting dressed. She was ready to leave at 6. That would be just enough for her to get to the mall and meet Greg. I waited in the hallway by our bedroom door until she came out. I burst into the room and took her in my arms. I kissed her and started rubbing her. Damn it, Dave, stop it. You know I have to meet the girls at 6:30 p.m. I don't have time for this, and besides, you're going to ruin my makeup. I'm sorry, honey. I just need you so much. How about making love fast now? No. I don't have time, Dave. I kissed her and pulled away. She screamed that I had ruined her makeup and that now I had stained her. She went to the bathroom to clean up, but I grabbed her and dragged her to the door and down the hall. As we passed the table where she kept her purse, I picked it up and handed it to her. I'm sorry it took so long, honey, I said. Although I really needed it. Thank you. Here's your purse. If you hurry, you can still make it and not be late. Give the girls my regards. You can blame me for making you late. Tell them I apologize. But I need to get myself cleaned up. I can't go to the city like this. No, you're all right, honey. Catherine glared at me and turned back to her car. It was all I could do not to laugh. Oh, guys, he was mad at Kate. I heard them kissing and moaning when they entered his apartment. There were a lot of rustling sounds. Then I heard Kate say, Greg, honey, I'm sorry, but Dave made me make love to him before I left. Let me go and clean up before we go to bed. What? I told you not to let that little asshole near you. I heard a slap and Kate screamed, Now get your ass in the bathroom and get yourself cleaned up. I couldn't hear anything else because Kate had obviously left her purse in the living room. I pissed off old Greggy and from the sound of it, I probably slapped Kate in the face. I didn't see the bruise, so I assumed he had just slapped her. Although the last time she was with Greg, it was bad. I had had enough and I decided that my revenge was over. I arranged everything to hand her the divorce papers during her Saturday date. I even provided Greg's wife with copies of the recordings and photos I had. No, I didn't have pictures of them doing dirty things, only where they were having dinner, dancing, and kissing in his car. That was enough. I paid extra for Kate to be served after she and Greg got to his apartment in the city. It was actually an apartment rented by his father's company for corporate visitors. Greg and his father both used her for their affairs with women they weren't married to. Oh yes, I was also kind enough to send Greg's mother photos of his father and his secretary making love too. Damn it, why not be a good guy? The staff met Greg and Kate in the lobby of the condominium. After he served her, he handed Greg the letter I had prepared for him. The processing server said to Greg, I was instructed to give you this letter, Mr. Anders. Mr. Stevens has outlined his actions to you so that you know what has been happening over the past few months and what you can expect when you return home next time. In the letter, I explained what documents I had against him and Kate, and that I had provided them to his mother and his wife. I also asked him if he liked getting my leftovers from Kate. I told him that I made sure that every time she came to him, I sent him a piece of myself so he could play. I'm afraid Greg got so angry that he hit Kate. He managed to hit her twice before the guard grabbed him and dragged him away. I heard it, and I heard the guard call the police and an ambulance for Kate. I felt sick. Yes, I wanted to hurt Kate, but I didn't want her to get hurt physically. I just didn't know Greg would actually try to beat her up. About an hour later, I got a call from the hospital. They wanted me to come, do some paperwork, and bring Kate home. I laughed and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't do that. Kate and I are getting divorced and she doesn't live with me. Why don't you call her lover and ask him to pick her up?" "Oh, well, I suppose I can do that. What's his name?" "What's his—" I gave her Greg's name and phone number. She paused for a moment, then said, Sir, I'm sorry, but I can't call Mr. Anders. Your wife is in the emergency room because Mr. Anders beat her badly this evening. I believe he's in jail now, sir." "Okay, here are 2 more phone numbers. Perhaps one of them can help." I gave the phone numbers of Kate's parents and one of her 2 best friends. I do not know who picked her up. I haven't heard from her in almost 4 days. I left work on Wednesday evening and found Kate waiting for me at my truck. When she saw me, she slowly got out of her car and came over to me. Kate had tears in her eyes when she stopped in front of me. "David, dear," she said, "can we please talk about everything? Please?" "No, Kate, there's not much to talk about. You cheated and I caught you. Now we're getting divorced," I said. "But I don't want a divorce, Dave. Can't we get this over with? I have nowhere to go. Please, I need to go home, Dave. I promise I'll feel better if you just let me come home and let me make it up to you." "No, that's not going to happen, baby. I heard Greggy had to move into your little love nest. Why don't you move in with him and his daddy? I bet they'd be happy to take care of you." I walked around Kate and got into my truck. When I closed the door, she was standing there crying. She didn't move until I was out of sight. And now there's another thing I didn't understand about women. Kate worked full-time and earned almost $36,000 a year. Why didn't she have enough money to rent a place like I did? Why did she move into this damn apartment with Greg and his dad? I don't know. What I learned from the police report is that Greg and his father beat her so badly that she died after 3 days in the hospital. She thought she was Greg's lover and they would get married after the divorce, according to a statement she gave to police before she died. Now I really feel like shit. Kate ruined our marriage in search of a good life. I killed Kate with my stupid revenge. I looked up and said, "Bartender, give me more. We need to get this shit over with." I was floating and the world was spinning, and then the damn mule kicked me in the head. There were dozens of people standing over me. I looked under the short skirt of the goddess. She was looking down at me. Shock showed on her face and she fell to her knees next to me. "David, is that really you? Why the hell did you get so drunk that you fell off your bar stool?" "Patty?" "Yes, Dave. I'd ask how you're doing, but I don't think you're in a position to tell me. Let's get you up and see if we can sober you up a bit." Patty and one of the bouncers helped me to her cubicle. She gave me coffee. I ran to the bathroom twice to get rid of the coffee and most of my insides. God, I'm glad I don't have to clean up after myself. After a couple of hours, at least I was able to speak without any problems. Patty demanded to know what I was doing there so drunk. I told her the whole story you just read and said, "So you see, Patty. I killed her. I do not know what to do now. I hated her for what she did to me, but I didn't want her dead." Patty sat in shock. She stared at me with her mouth open. Finally, she wrapped her arm around me and hugged me tightly. "Dave, some of what you did was pretty mean, but you didn't kill her. That asshole Greg killed her. You couldn't have known he would do it." Patty sat staring into the distance for a while and then said, "You know, Dave, it's partly my fault too. Now I regret that I never told you about Catherine while we were in college. Often in the evenings, when she wasn't spending time with you at the Joe's, she'd go out with some guy with big pockets. Where do you think she got the money for the expensive clothes she was wearing? I never told you because you weren't exceptional back then, and I really didn't think you'd fall for her tricks and marry her. Damn it, you worked at Joss and knew what kind of tramps were walking there. So you see, I'm kind of to blame too." I sat and looked at Patty. Even in college, right? Damn, I just don't understand women. I thought we were doing well. Dave, don't paint all the women with the same brush. You know, many of us are not like that. If you use these criteria, I suppose I should run away from you because all men look like Gregory, right? Dave, I know that's not true. I've been working with you for 2 years. I know what kind of person you are. How many women have you brought home and put to bed when they were so drunk they could have been raped if someone hadn't taken care of them? Dave, you just need to learn that women are like men. There are good, decent players, and there are not. There are female players as well as men. Look for the good ones and do your best. We think differently than men, it's true. And we are more guided by emotions, but it's not that hard to understand, is it? Patty smiled and pulled at my hand. Come on, Dave. Let me take you home. By the way, where do you live? If you're really interested in learning something about women, when all this settles down, I'll give you some lessons on how to understand them. Okay?